What is up, everybody? It is good to get back in the studio today to check out the vintage plate module inside of the Toybox Nano Pack 2 library. And I'm not really sure if this was part of the original Toybox library or not. At any rate, I wanted to start in this next sort of run of videos. I wanted to start checking out some of the effects, some of the things that might come later on in the processing chain after you've created some of the sounds from the oscillators and from the filters, and using the sort of setup that we have done tutorials about in the past. If you are interested in learning how to build a synth just like the one you're seeing on screen, check out some of the previous videos and it will walk you through that. So today we are checking out a vintage plate before we start looking at some saturators in our upcoming videos. Today we're just going to look at adding a little bit of reverb to a simple sort of sine wave sort of setup. So I've got a couple of sine waves here, as you can see from the scopes, a regular sine oscillator, a wavetable sine bank that's doing a little bit of wiggling, a little bit of movement. But as you can see, it's pretty basic. If I had to compare it to something, it's kind of like a monophonic organ, you know, so to speak. Just a real basic one, not too much happening. And I have a frequency analyzer down here in the form of FabFilter Pro Q3 to really give us a visualization of kind of what's going on with a simple sine wave. As you can see, there's not too many harmonics really happening above the 1K, 2K range. It's just, some simple sine waves mixed together, which gives us a nice bottom end. Gives us some nice content in the upper frequencies to start hearing. So now I'm just going to turn the mix all the way up on the vintage plate module, a stereo vintage plate reverb effect. Let's hear what this sounds like. Obviously, if I turn it all the way down, it's a monophonic synth, so every time I strike another key, it's just going to play that other note. You're not going to hear any of the last note that came before it. So you see how it's just starting the next note right at the end of the last one. But when I add some reverb into the picture, now you're getting all this blending that's happening of the notes, because you're hearing some of the tail end of that last note ring out through the reverb as the beginning of that next note is playing through it as well. And so you're getting this mixture. So that's really cool. Sounds really, really, really good. We can have some controls of the size of the reverb. Can obviously go on forever there, or you can have a much smaller plate that ends, pretty abruptly. It just depends on what you're looking for. I tend to shoot right up the middle, I think, with that sort of setting. And then you gotta have high pass and low pass filters built right in. You really don't hear much of it when you low pass it, so I tend to leave that really off. High pass can be useful if you really don't want too much low end build up in the reverb. Then you can high pass that out. That's more of a mixing preference there. You obviously would do that to taste. I'm leaving these kind of wide open. I just want to hear all of it for right now until I say otherwise. And I used to have some fancy routing where I routed this into some other channels and mixed into, and with this mix control, there's no need for any of that. You can just crossfade between the dry and the wet signal very, very easily. So obviously there's, no wet signal, then maybe just a little bit. less than 10, 20%, adds a nice little on top, shoot right up the middle. You can obviously hear a lot of it. Sounds like a pretty nice even mix of the dry signal, which you can hear right at the beginning of the sound. You see these transients jumping up there right as I hit the key. And then when I blend it, it takes a little time for that, you know, for that signal to then reach its peak. It doesn't jump up there right away because it's actually you're not hearing any of the dry signal at all. So, you know, you're just hearing it through the plate. It is a really lovely sounding plate, you know. People spend a lot of money on obviously plugins and you know, people have preferences for different reverbs and stuff that they use. You really could just hook this up from the audio in straight into the plate, into the audio out, and you've got a great sounding reverb plate plugin just like that. You know, so I'm using it in a synth context. You could obviously, you know, I would love to hear some drums through this, some vocals through this. You know, there's all sorts of uses for this vintage plate. I'm gonna use it to hear the saturators that we're gonna start looking at in the upcoming videos. I want to hear that through the plate as well, so I thought I would add a plate into this entire mix. And just, I think I've had it maybe in some previous episodes. I don't really remember talking about it yet, so it's nice to jump in and check out the various effects inside of Toybox Nano Pack. I can't wait to, you know, see how I can make this really simple setup. It's just a couple of sine waves. There's not much going on here. Sounds maybe like an organ the way I've got it set up, possibly like a really simple organ without much spice on it yet. And it's going to be cool to explore how I can take that really, really simple setup and then make it sound not simple at all. Make it sound really, really wild. So that's what we're going to be exploring in upcoming episodes. It's going to be good. And then we'll use that format to probably explore some more sound generators. You know what I mean? There's a whole library of oscillators I haven't even checked out yet. So there's all sorts of stuff that we can check out. Cool. All right. I think that about does it. You know, it's a pretty simple little reverb control. Oh, the amount of feedback. The amount of early late, difference between early and late reflections. So play around with these controls as well. Obviously, you can you know, have these set per what you're going for. You know, there's no rules with this stuff. You know? And that about does it for the vintage plate module. Until next time.